I kind of wanted that to keep rolling, actually. That was a great video. Thank you, John. Thank you, media team. Let's give them a hand for all their hard work. They do a lot back there, man. They do a lot. This is going to be a good night. I feel that some of you guys are going to break through into some new mindsets, into some new dimensions, into some new places in your life. Maybe you've never experienced anything like this before, and there may be some of you that are under the sound of my voice right now that you're coming down off of drugs, or maybe you're drunk right now, or you're high right now, or you're thinking about getting high right now. I want you to know that you're in a safe place, you're in a good place, you're in a place that people love you, people care for you, you're in a place that things change. You're in a place where miracles happen. Miracles happen here every single day. I watched it as I spoke to a guy who was at our door right outside in these parking lots this morning. I talked to a gentleman who didn't know if the decision that was before him was the right decision. Literally came to the door here to get some feedback whether or not he should make a decision or not. And it was a very critical decision that he needed to make. And I said, look, man, listen, if you go back and you stick that needle in your arm, that could be the last breath that you take. Is that a gamble that you want to take? I said, listen, that's the reality of where you are. This is the reality of where we are. In our addiction, it could just be one hit away, one shot away, one drink away, one decision away. I see so many people, they give up so soon, and it costs them their life. How many of you know that this is a life-changing decision in one way or the other, just being here tonight? This is life-changing. The thing that you're going to be receiving tonight, the word that you're going to be receiving tonight, the message, I believe, is going to change your life. Say breakout. Breakout. Listen, I've never, in the 3 years that I've had this book, I've actually never done a message that was just like the title of the book itself. So it's a little bit awkward for me, but you want to know what? I believe that it's going to be life-changing for many of you. Now, look at this. The definition of break is to separate or cause to separate into pieces as a result of a blow, a shock, or a strain. To shatter or smash, crack, or break with a loud snap. Some of you are here tonight and you need to break your addiction to the point where you can hear a loud snap. So that the people around you can hear a loud snap. It needs to be so evident to the people around you that you want to break free from your addiction that everybody around you notices that there's a change taking place. That there's a breaking, that there's a shattering. Your life as it was needs to shatter. Your life as it used to be needs to break. Your life as it used to be needs to be torn apart, shredded, put down, underground, never to be seen again. That's the kind of breaking that your addiction needs the attention for. That makes sense. It needs that type of attention. It doesn't need the attention where in our mindset we're continually thinking about getting high, thinking about the people that we used to hang out with, thinking about when we're going to get our next fix, wondering if this is the right decision to make. I'm in Serenity Homes. I'm in this place. I'm in this treatment center. I'm in this transitional. I just got out of detox. Whatever the case might be, I guarantee that if you're here tonight, you're in the right place. You're breaking free from some mindsets that you used to have, but some of us hold on to those old mindsets because we entertain those old films. Those things that we recorded in our addiction. How many of you have ever recorded something in your mind in your addiction? And you find yourself playing it back over and over again. See, some of those tapes and some of those things need to be broken. They need to be crushed. They need to be cracked and with a loud snap. You ever remember when that DVD or that CD or that whatever it is made that loud snap? It's always a reminder that it's done. That it's done. It's no longer going to replay in your mind those old relationships, those old addictions, those old places, those old things. They continue to play over and over and over again. And it's 60 minutes here, 60 minutes there. It's 90 minutes here, it's 90 minutes there. And it's just chipping away at your time that is not good, clean time. Some of you missed that. sometimes your clean time is not good clean time, even though we're counting years. It's not about how many clean days and clean years that we have, because the reality is some people live 10 clean years dirty. You got to break those things, those old habits, those old mindsets, those old things. And now this out is a moving or appearing to move away from a place, especially one that is enclosed or hidden. Sometimes when we come out of our hiding, we have nothing left. So when you break, you shatter those things and you come out of those old relationships, those old addictions, those old things, you're actually coming out of hiding. People wonder, where have you been? How many of you have ever had somebody ask you, yo man, where have you been for the last 5 years? Anybody? Like I had people that looked at me and says, I didn't even know that you had green, blue eyes. Like I thought you had brown eyes. I'm like, dude, so did I. Like I didn't even know what color my eyes were in my addiction. I mean, I knew how much I weighed. I knew I weighed under 100 pounds. I know that I could see my ribs poking through the side of my shirt. I knew how sick that I was, kind of, but I didn't know the depth of it. I didn't know that when I came out of it, I didn't realize how much freedom I experienced just coming out of it, even the first day. Even the first day, coming off the dope and coming off the drugs and coming out of that whole lifestyle, that apartment complex. How many of you remember that the apartment complex that just had a coffee table, an ashtray, and it had a bed, and it had macaroni and cheese, macaroni and cheese, macaroni and cheese, macaroni and cheese. That's it. And it was all stolen from the nearby gas station, because nobody could afford a box of macaroni and cheese. Some of you online know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to get somebody in here to figure it out. But listen, we're crazy in our addiction. And all we eat is macaroni and cheese. How many of you eat just macaroni and cheese now? Got one over here. Hey, listen. Now you eat it with hot dogs because you can afford hot dogs. The good hot dogs. See, when you break out of some of these mindsets, you begin to do things you never thought of, even though it starts with, you used to have macaroni and cheese, but now you're adding hot dogs to it. Right? It seems stupid, but now you're eating fillets and everything's good. Life is good. You can afford things you never afforded before. So you're breaking out of these things, and sometimes you come out of hiding, and you realize when you come out of hiding that you were sitting. I remember the cops came to get me one time, and I was hiding behind a garbage bag, and the cop missed me. How do you miss this little white boy behind a trash bag? So he left, came back. Why did he come back? Well, I forgot I had something still burning in front of the garbage bag that I dropped out of my mouth. Oh, I knew I smelled something down here. Get up here, Mr. Lindstrom. We have a warrant for your arrest. I'm sitting behind this garbage bag. I literally had nothing. Sometimes we come out of hiding and we realize, wow, I really don't have anything worth any value. So how are we able to ever give anything back to anybody when we're constantly living in a life of we don't think we have value. We have value just in and of ourselves. But what are we giving to other people that's valuable? We break out of our addictions and we come out of that darkness. We come out of that hiding. We can never forget what it's like to have nothing left. You can't ever forget those days that you were scrounging around for a couple pennies walking down the street. Anyone ever experienced 1 or 2 nights where you literally walked around all night looking on the ground? Can I get a witness? Anybody? Okay, I'm not the craziest person in the room. But I remember that. I remember the strain in my neck. I remember finding just enough to hit the bus stop so I can hit and just crash out for just a few hours until the bus driver would wake me up. And some of you from New York City understand what I'm talking about. You rolled around on the subway all night. Maybe not one person from New York, is there? Chicago. Got some people from Chicago or Atlanta or Washington, D.C. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about. Or from Berlin or Tokyo. Anyone from Tokyo? Somebody's watching. They're from Tokyo. Now look at this. I took this out. I don't know. Listen, never forget what it's like to have nothing. Don't ever forget it. We're going to get into this. Now, wandering the streets with nowhere to go and nobody left to call who trusted or wanting me around. I remember that person, one of those people, being my mom. Wondering why in the world. I remember my brother and I pulled up at the house, and I go, hey, what are you going to do? He's like, I'll be right back. I'm like, dude, what are you going to do? Break into mom's house? Right? Like, how bad does the addiction go when you're breaking into mom's house? I mean, it's ludicrous. It's crazy. But sure enough, here he is. And my mom is saying, get out of here. He's like chasing my brother out of the house with a bat. Moments later, I'm trying to run him over with my car, and he's throwing a boulder at my car. How sick does it get, you guys? I mean, this is family. Family that's supposed to be loving, caring, and supportive of one another. But I guarantee you that my mom was just as loving and supportive and caring, carrying a baseball bat, chasing my brother out of the house as she is right now today. Let's give all moms and dads a hand right now. For all you moms and dads watching, I applaud you. Now, begin to realize that I had slipped into total desperation. I would literally do anything to get high. I would do anything to get my fix. I would do anything to please my own mindset so that I didn't have to think about the consequences of what I was about to face. Because 9 times out of 10, in our addiction, we're almost always facing consequences. I felt that way anyways. I don't know, maybe you were really slick and you never caught a case. And nothing ever happened. You never wronged nobody. You weren't looking over your shoulder. You didn't sleep with an axe or a pistol under your pillow or anything like that or anything underneath your bed. Maybe a coat hanger because that was really sturdy. But you know what? There's always something. We're always watching our back for, like, what is that all about, right? But I slipped into total desperation. It was like I had absolutely no laws, no regulation, no nothing going on. It was just me making decisions based on whatever I felt like doing that day. And my friends, I'll tell you what, that's no way to live. You'll have absolutely nothing for the rest of your life if you're living like that. But no longer did I feel like I owned the world. No longer did I have a tight-knit crew or thousands of dollars going through my hands. It was just me alone and hopeless. It wasn't until then that I realized how broken I truly was. It wasn't until I didn't have the money, I didn't have the group that said, hey man, doesn't matter what you want to do tonight, let's get it done. Like, I'll do whatever. We'll burglarize homes, we'll steal cars, we'll hold people up. I mean, we'll do anything. Like, let's do it. When all that is stripped away and you have absolutely nothing left, it gets you thinking about things. It gets you thinking about what you really have. I came to that realization that my life was broken when everything else was gone. And a lot of us come to that realization when everything else is gone. But then when everything else is gone, how do you begin to rebuild your life? Because some people, when they get to nothing, they get to broke, they get to just starting over in their life, it starts even 3, 4, 5 years into it. I had 3, 4, 5 years sobriety and crushed it over a relationship that started off with just like, oh, I'll just have a couple of wine coolers on the couch while you're at work. And I'm hiding behind the scenes, just getting my drink on. Well, I know better than that because I'm a hardcore meth addict. So if I just have a couple Long Island iced teas on the couch, that to me is going to drive me into a whole nother, let somebody know what I'm talking about. I'm hitting the pipe. I'm getting high, and I'm off to the races. We don't do anything halfway. We're all in. You're either all in your addiction or you're all in for the great things that God has prepared for you in recovery. Amen? So you got to recognize your beginning of change. Your beginning of change. A lot of us spend so much time analyzing other people and where they're starting off, where they're at in their life, that we fail to recognize where our starting place is. Where our moment of change is. We step out and we're constantly just sitting and looking at other people, and we fail to recognize the beginning of our change. Now, I had to come to that realization where I had to call my mom and say, Mom, I want to turn myself in. Can you come and get me? Now, that was a very important message, a very important decision that I had to make. I remember very clearly that day when I was sitting there. I had just enough money to escape the state, to get out of state. I had just enough to go. And I made a decision that day that I was going to call my mom and turn myself in because guess what? I was sick and tired of running from the cops. I was sick and tired of hiding. And I was sick and tired of getting high. There comes a place in your life where you just get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you begin to actually take charge in your life and say, I don't want to sleep on that little t-ball field bench anymore. I don't want to sleep in the woods anymore. And maybe you weren't sleeping in the woods. Maybe you're in a very large house. You had lots of money. Or maybe you were just sick of spending millions of dollars on cocaine. I don't know what the case is. But I do know that everyone that is in recovery needs to recognize the beginning of change and never forget it. Never forget it. I never forget that day that I called my mom and she dropped me off at the jail. I remember because I smoked for 45 minutes every last cigarette that I could before I went in. Maybe it was a full pack. I have no idea. But when I got out, I know I had a lighter that was like a torch. You remember that when you turn that thing up? You like that? Oh yeah, some of you know what I'm talking about. But everyone deserves a second chance. Now, I wasn't in jail, and I could have probably been in jail for the rest of my life, but I'm out now. And I thank God for every day that I'm out, because I know that I could be in. And any day I could be in. But I thank God by His grace I can continue to do what He's called me to do. And so can you. So can you. You don't have to live the rest of your life as a revolving door going in and out of jail, in and out of prison, in and out of rehabs, in and out of these things. There's freedom from that revolving door. There is. But everyone deserves a second chance. Look at this. But what are you doing with your second chance? That's the question. I know I was somebody who was given probably over 100 second chances. The question is, what are you doing with the second chance? Look at this. I stepped up to the desk to retrieve my belongings. Okay, we're going somewhere here. To retrieve my belongings from the officer. All right? Now, I have one other thing to ask you. Consider this. Do you remember that time when someone else had to help you manage your next to nothing? Yes. Do you remember when someone else had to manage your next to nothing? I'll break it down for you, because I had these officers when I was in jail. They were managing my stuff, right? And this was my list of stuff. A comb. I don't even know how, and it was what I had in my possession. It was a comb. It was a comb. I don't even know. Girls maybe use this for, it's got like a pick at the end of it. I mean, what drug addict runs around with a comb and a metal pick? I don't even know what it was. I thought it was a weapon. Yeah, what is that thing? All right, whatever. There it is. You guys now know what it was that I had in my possession when I got out. Retrieved that. A comb, a lighter, a pack of cigarettes, and a dirty outfit is what completed my list of possessions. That's what I had left when I got out of jail. And I left that jail, and I went into Teen Challenge for the court-ordered for the second time, beginning to get my life back right. Not only get my life back right with my family, with my brothers, and with my friends, people that I had wronged, but also in my relationship with God. And I had some things to take care of. I had some walls I had some people to talk to. I had some things to break through. I had some barriers in my life, but I knew that if I just started to change a little bit and I didn't forget where I came from, I knew that I would begin to do something with my life. I knew it. So, do you remember that time when someone else had to help you manage your next to nothing? Now, when you I experienced a heart change when I was incarcerated, all right? And while I was in, God really replaced my stony heart. Like my life was a complete mess because, like Pastor says oftentimes, because I was in it. Like I was the center of it all, right? And so here I am getting out of jail, but just before I got out, I had a real encounter with God. And my recovery changed forever. I began to realize that the anger, the hatred, the shame, the guilt, the pain, the things that I was carrying around, He was calling me to break in my life. Because those were things that were controlling me every single day. Every single day. And whether you're here in this room right now or you're watching online, I know that you can relate at some level that when you experience heart change, you actually want to start making changes, okay? You actually want to start making changes. You don't want to have next to nothing anymore and have somebody else overseeing it. You want to start having responsibility, people beginning to trust you again, people beginning to entrust you with things again, and giving you an opportunity, because everyone deserves a second chance. Everyone deserves a second chance. Now, whatever we do with that second chance is another thing. But Ephesians 4:28, and we're going to dive into this together. This is something that definitely changed my life. This scripture right here. Ephesians 4:28 through 30. And it says this. It says, if you are a thief, quit stealing. Instead, use your hands. It says, use your hands for good, hard work, and then give generously to others in need. I want to read it one more time. It says, if you are a thief, or if you are a drug addict, if you are a criminal, whatever, fill in that blank. If you are, quit. Stop completely. Stop doing it. Stop killing yourself. Stop hurting other people around you, because every time you relapse or every time you go back to that mindset, people around you are affected. They get touched, they get impacted, whether it's by your current using behaviors or using behaviors that you haven't gotten rid of. It's time to break out, break free of some of those mindsets and those things that have for so long have controlled every single moment of your life. Quit stealing. Instead, there's a replacement. Quit stealing instead. Work with your hands. See, I didn't know that I was even capable of writing a book until I quit stealing. Because when I was busy stealing, there was no way I was writing, number one. I was constantly taking stuff. But it couldn't be replaced with anything. So there are some things in your life right now, in our life, that we have to let go of, that we have to quit. We have to stop in order to do the instead of. Instead, quit stealing. Instead, work with your hands. And then what? There's a sequence here. Quit stealing, work with your hands in good hard work, and then give generously to other people in need. See, there are other people that are in need of you to quit your addiction. There are other people in need of you to quit having that mindset that keeps you trapped in your addiction and in those habits, those life-controlling addictions that tend to take you down and everybody else around you. And when you give generously to others in need, it's an increase of pure generosity. When you have an increase of pure generosity, you're not just giving so that you get something back right now. You're actually giving, not expecting anything else to come back to you, and just for the pure pleasure of giving, because you know that it's more blessed and better for you to give to somebody else than it is for you to receive it. So the law of this is that you will always be taken care of if you're generous. You will always be taken care of if you're generous. Now, where we start to fall in the traps is where we begin to think of ourselves to be too high. We think too highly of ourselves. We don't think we need anybody else because we have everything under control. And that's where we start to go back to those old mindsets. But you can give generously to others. No, but here's the other part of this. In verse 29, let your conversation be good and helpful. See, once you break out of that mindset and you begin to have a heart change, now how do you maintain that heart change? How do you maintain that pure heart, that, wow, man, there's been so many great things that have happened in my life. And for the first couple of months in sobriety, it's like everything is bright and flowers and everything. You didn't even realize the trees were green and your eyes were that certain color and all these things. But when you experience change, how do you maintain that change in your life so it remains a pure lifestyle of generosity? Now, because if you let your conversation be good and helpful to other people, because you quit stealing, you quit that mindset, you quit the addiction and all these other things, you're replacing it with good hard work and you're able to give generously to other people in need. You have so much, you barely know how to continue. You don't even know where to store half the stuff. You start having so much stuff, and it's not just for you, it's for other people. Now, letting your conversation be good and helpful, now you're taking it from, it's one thing to lay down your addiction, to quit stealing, to quit getting high, to quit doing all these things, to quit getting busted, and quit putting yourself in jail, and all these other things. It's one thing to stop that, to have a heart change. It's another thing that your lifestyle in recovery is actually good and helpful for other people around you. Not just in the things that you can give. It's one thing to be able to hand somebody something, whether it's money or it's a car or whatever it is. At one point I was never even able to get a car. And then, wow, now I've actually been able to give cars away to people. Why? It's not about me. But there's other people that are in need. I used to steal cars, but now I can give them away. How does that work? It ain't about me. It's not about you. It's about the God inside of you that wants to work miracles in other people's lives. Let your conversation be good and helpful, not just in the possessions. Look at this. These 3 verses are the first 3 verses that I read in a jail cell. When I looked at that, the first thing was quit stealing. I was a thief. I was a drug addict. It changed my life. It changed my heart. I realized that I had so much hatred, I wasn't giving anybody anything of any value. But then I started to realize that after I quit stealing, I had something of value to give to people that could actually benefit their life and change their life. Just one act of kindness can change someone's life forever. Someone's life could be changed forever by one act of kindness. Just being kind to people can change their life. Now, don't use foul or abusive language. Oh, wait a second. Don't use foul or abusive language because this could potentially be beneficial for somebody else. Sometimes when we start to open up our mouths, the conversation that comes out of our mouth is poisonous. Even in recovery. We have to change that, you guys. I want to just put that challenge out there. If you feel that has been something that has held you back from moving forward, I know more times than none, there are so many people that use the foul and abusive language that was part of the addiction, okay? Not just getting sober, stop stealing, but how you communicate and talk to people is poisonous. It's got to break. Say break. It's got to break, and it's got to be crushed. Look at that. Let everything you say everything. Everything you say be what? Be good and helpful so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them. How many people have been encouraged by the words that you've spoken out of your mouth today? I've been encouraged by somebody today. I've been encouraged by somebody that had spoken good things into my life today. And I have chosen that I want to reciprocate those good things through my life into the lives of other people. Because you want to know what? I love it when someone can talk real nice, good, kind, and all that. You know what I mean? How many of you absolutely love somebody to just rip you apart with their nasty language? Let me get a raise of hands in this place. Right? Yeah, I mean, it's like, no one. So why do we do it? Because we're still stuck. That old mindset hasn't been broken yet. We keep going back to it because we're so comfortable with it. It makes us feel good about ourselves to talk a certain way when you're poisoning yourself and those around you. That's why it's important that not only do you experience heart change so that you want to make changes, but you begin to let your conversation be good and helpful to other people around you. Maybe you don't think it's that bad, but I'm telling you what, if you sit there and you observe other people and all you can do is criticize them for what they're saying, my question back to you is to put the mirror in front of you and ask yourself, how do I talk to people? How do I talk about people? Oh, it got real quiet. How are you talking about other people when they're not around? Because here's the thing. You don't think that it affects other people when you talk about them behind their back? It's called gossip, right? You can slander people behind their back. You can literally be infusing poison, not only into your own mind about them, but to innocent ears around you who have never heard that knowledge before about that person that's probably 99% not true because you don't have all the facts and all the other stuff. See, in our addiction, when we start to work a little bit deeper, we begin to recognize and realize that it's more than just the addiction that is breaking our lives apart. And I know, because when I wrote this, it was heart-wrenching to take a look at my life and see where I came out of, to know the people that I hurt in the process, to see the things, we've all been through stuff, but I guarantee that 9 out of 10 of us in here, we've done something to somebody else that we owe an amends to even right now as we're sitting in these chairs. And now's the time. Now's the time, because if you haven't broken out of a certain mindset, I guarantee, and a certain lifestyle, I guarantee when you get out of it, you realize how detrimental it has been for years. See, addiction, cunning, baffling, powerful. It will take you out. It will take you out. Now look at this. Now your conversation be good and helpful. I want to bless people with my words and the things that I do in my everyday life. But at the same time, who are you identifying with right now? Right? Who are you identifying with right now? Right now, I identify myself. I'm not trying to get all spiritual on you, but I'm a child of God, you guys. I don't know who you identify with, but first and foremost, I'm a child of God. I'm a child of God. I belong to the King of Kings, and I belong to the Lord of Lords. First and foremost, in my recovery, what has kept me going all these years? Number one, it's my relationship with God. Nothing comes before me and my God. We heard Pastor talk about, no one is going to come in between my dance with Jesus. And he said he wasn't going to dance, and what did he do? He danced on the stage, right? We all witnessed it. Some of you didn't. Some of you got to watch the video. Nothing. Who cares how foolish you look? Man, don't let nothing get between you and your dance with God. In your dance, in your group, in life where you're doing something good and beneficial for other people. Amen? Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You can have, what do you identify with, right? Verse 30, and do not bring sorrow to God's Holy Spirit by the way that you live. Do you know that there are some things that we do in our recovery that bring sorrow to God's Spirit that dwells on the inside of you, that is all around you, that is drawing you to Himself? There are things that we do in our life, and I'm telling you, if you feel a conviction, if you feel this like, wow, I'm doing something wrong, like, listen, just check yourself. Because now I can check myself now, and I don't have to be checked into jail anymore. I don't have. I had so many stays at the downtown Hilton at LEC, the law enforcement center downtown there. But it was my doing. I could blame it on whoever I want. At the end of the day, I'm the one sleeping on the bunk. I'm the one. Listen, this God has something better, but by the way that you live, are you honoring God? Are you honoring your mentor? Are you honoring your father and your mother? Are you honoring your children? Are you honoring those close to you right now by the way that you're living right now? It's a question you can ask yourself. And check this out. Now remember, He has identified you as His very own, guaranteeing that you will be saved on the day of redemption. Now, do you agree with God that you are His very own? In the working of the 12 steps, there comes a time in your working, wherever you are in the step, there comes a time where you have a spiritual awakening and you begin to identify yourself as God's very own. As God's very own. See, Bill, the 12 steps are all based on relationship with God, first and foremost, and on relationship with one another. That not only is there a level of accountability, but there's a level of giving back into a society that's broken, that you can actually add value to the lives of people around you through your own generosity, because now you're not thinking of just yourself, you're thinking of other people. And I'm thinking about the day of my redemption, my redemption. Man, God has been so good to me. And I know that He's been so good to you. That's why you're in this room right now. Maybe you don't identify it with God as being creator, the one who created you, the one who created the heavens and the earth. But I guarantee that He is the one that loved you. He knew you before you were born. He knew you in your mother's womb. And He called you to greatness. He called you into a life of sobriety and freedom, and called you to a life of generosity. You cannot defeat the enemy on your own. There's a real enemy that is coming against your life and the life that God has for you in your recovery, to be somebody that will add value to this world that we live in. See, because it is. What are you contributing? What are we contributing to this world? Like anybody else, maybe online or here, anybody else just spent most of your life just taking from everybody around you, taking from the world around you? It's like, what can we get? How long can I suck off the system? How long can I take this money? I was in Teen Challenge, and $94 a month. Maybe you get $104 now. I don't know. But like, how long do we just be takers in our life? Created for more than that. But depending on who you're identifying with, and that you realize that the enemy wants you to be broke, the enemy wants you to be stuck, the enemy wants you to have absolutely nothing. He doesn't want you to feel good about yourself. He doesn't want you to feel good about anybody else. He only wants you to feel defeated. So if you don't defeat the enemy in your mindset, in your life, in your contribution to the world as we know it, then you will live a defeated life. And it will be very lonely, very dark, and it won't be anything nice. I guarantee that. But we have a greater hope that we read about on Revelation 12:11. Check this out now. I mean, this is awesome. And they have defeated the enemy. They have defeated him by the blood of the Lamb and by their testimony. And they did not love their lives so much that they were afraid to die. They didn't love their lives so much. And here's the thing. How much do you love your own life right now? Because here's the truth. See, you got to get to this place where it's not just about living your life for you. We've already talked about that. But there comes a turning point. There comes a turning point when you see your life is valuable. And when you see your life as valuable and you feed yourself, you help yourself, you begin to realize how valuable you are and you invest in your own life. See, a lot of us, we're too prideful to understand the fact that we actually have to invest in ourselves before we can invest in somebody else. How do you start investing in your life? You have your own bank account. When you have your own bank account, you start the first level of investment, which is what? Your savings account, right? Maybe it's not, I don't know. But how much return do you get on a savings account? Anybody know? Yeah, very little. So when all you do is invest in yourself, you get very little return. That's the point. When you start adding value to the lives of other people around you, and you begin to break and begin to live a life that's not a life of defeat, you begin to share your testimony. Share your testimony. This is just a simple testimony of how God transformed my life. And you can share your testimony. Guess what? You add value to someone else's life when you let them know, hey man, listen, I was a drug addict and a crook for like 11 years. But now, man, I've been free for like 13 years, and God's been faithful to everything He promised would happen has taken place. That is not living. I don't live in defeat. I live in victory. You can live in victory as you share your testimony and give back to those around you. There are so many people that need to hear your story. Listen, this is something that's so overlooked in the recovery circles today that it's just about the one person up front that can give their story. No, listen. You're commissioned to share your story with people because you are going to impact families through your life story. That's how you defeat the enemy. You keep talking about how the devil's head has been crushed under your feet. He has been defeated in your life. Share that testimony with somebody. Watch them get free. Listen, and you can live your life where you're no longer afraid of dying, but you're enjoying the life that you live. Too many of us, we live in fear of the unknown. We live in fear of dying. So then we paralyze our mindset, and we end up living a life that's just paralyzed and not really understanding the depth of where we can go and what we can do. Here we go. So if you break out of that mindset, you break out of that lifestyle, and you begin to see that there's much more to live for than what's just before your eyes. A lot of times we just live by what we can see, and that makes us feel comfortable, but that's the very thing that's going to keep you on the couch. That's the very thing that's going to keep you sick. That's the very thing that's going to keep you sitting and continuing to stew on the mistakes that you've made instead of learning from the mistakes and actually moving forward. You can't live at being a mistake, and you can't keep dwelling on your mistakes. In our addiction, we've made so many mistakes, and too many people live dwelling on the mistakes they've made in their addiction, and they never get free. So they're just dwelling on the mistakes that they made, but yet they're sober, and they're still reflecting on those old things. And so you can learn from the mistakes that you've made, but you have to be teachable and willing to learn from that. Again, live for more than just you. God's calling is better than your agenda. His calling is much better than your agenda. I remember as clear as day when I was going through Bible school, and I remember this. I remember thinking to myself, what am I going to do with my life? And I knew at that time, I heard God speak to me. And maybe you've never heard that before, but it's very, very, it's intricate, but it's not like just for the gurus only. Like you can hear the voice of God, you can feel His presence, and you can utilize His voice in your recovery. It's not out of the, it's supernatural, but it's very natural because He's your creator. And He spoke to me and said, you're going to reach out to the old you. And I says, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. I don't want to reach out to the old me. Sometimes the things that we're called to are the very things that will irritate us and make us uncomfortable and make us give up. We won't move forward because we know what we're supposed to do, but we won't do it, so we get stuck in comfortability. In a recovery, too many people are comfortable addicts in recovery. And if you get out of your comfort zone, you realize that there is much more that meets the eye. Look at this. I wrote this out. It says, I had seen that walk before, the one that changed from hope to uncertainty with every step. I see people every day that I run into. I love to share what God has done in my life, but I'll tell you what, I see people that are taking one step after the other. Hope, the uncertainty. They have a little bit of hope, and then they're uncertain again. It's like one day is a day of hope. The next day they're uncertain about do I want to stay sober this day? And then they go, and it's back and forth. And you can see it clearly. And I remember thinking to myself, like, if this is something that my eyes are supposed to be opened up to, then guess what? I'll contribute to it. Sometimes your eyes are opened up or enlightened to the reality of your very calling, and it's right before your eyes. But there's a risk. And a lot of us don't like to take risk, so we don't step out of our comfort zone to help somebody else out. One of the keys in our recovery is to help another addict out. You and I know that. It's helping the guy who's sitting at the doorstep, wondering, should I make this decision, or should I just go back and do what I'm used to doing? Okay, man, make the right decision. It's obviously the right one. We all know it. But here's the thing. When you're trying to reach out and help somebody, it's not always going to go the way that you think it's going to go. But if you're going to live a healthy recovery I'll tell you what, you're going to have to contribute to the others around you. And typically, a lot of us that are in recovery, they're going to be other addicts that are going to need to hear your story. That's how you get your breakthrough. That's how you move forward in your recovery. That's how you stay sober another day. You give back to somebody else that's in need. You open up your eyes to see the people around you are uncertain about how they want to live. Why did you get set free from your addiction in the first place? Or why are you being called to freedom from your addiction in the first place? To give back to others. To be generous to others who are in need. To be generous. Now, the question is where is your training ground? Where is your training ground, right? For me, I know that the beginning of my training ground was at Teen Challenge. That was kind of my starting point. It went from Teen Challenge to the Bible school. And then from the Bible school, it got out, and it's just been training ground after training ground. So there's not only one training ground, but you have to recognize where is your training ground right now. I didn't even realize till I wrote this thing that 8 months ago, I was sitting, look at this. 8 months ago, I was sitting in a jail cell, and now I'm surrounded by a bunch of people who are far smarter than me. When I wrote this, I realized that when I got released from jail, I had to do a timeline. I got released from jail, and after I got out of jail, I went into Teen Challenge, went to the Bible school, and I realized that was only 8 months later. There's so much that can happen in just 8 months. I said to myself, I must be crazy for thinking that I can study the Bible. And as I said before, I've never read a book all the way through in my life. Who do I think I am that I could go to Bible school? See, there are some things that you're being called to right now in your recovery that you're ignoring, but you know you're supposed to do it. I want to encourage you right now to do it. I want to encourage you right now to do that very thing that you're scared to do. As long as it's not get high, obviously you know why you're scared of that. But there are some things that you're being opened up to and exposed to that will radically change your life and take you to places you never dreamed that you would be. It's amazing. Where is your training ground? For me, there were many different training grounds. Identify the training ground that you're on right now. Who are the teachers? Who are the mentors? Talk to them. Utilize your sponsor. Utilize the people around you. And gain the wisdom and the understanding that you need. Now look at this. Now, Hebrews 12:11. And some of you guys are looking at that clock, and I'm going to make it through. Amen? I'm going to make it through. Now, no discipline is enjoyable while it is happening. Forget about it. This is going to happen. It's going to happen fast. It's going to happen suddenly. Some of the greatest things happen in a quick second. In a quick second. No discipline is enjoyable while it's happening. It's painful. Embrace your life-changing pain. Some of you are in a place of discipline or whatever the case is. Some of you are in a time in your life where it feels painful. It's almost unbearable. But I want you to know you can embrace that pain and let that pain bring about the change that you need in your life. Because you will experience change, right? Now, afterward, say afterward. Afterward, there will be peaceful harvest of right living. It's about right living. It's about right living, not just about staying sober, but it's about right living. What is the conversation that's coming out of your mouth, out of your life, behind closed doors, in the open? Is it bringing life? Is it contributing something good to someone else, or is it poisoning them? I like to be around people that impart blessing and life into my life in recovery because it helps me stay sober another day and it helps me give back to other people that are in need. Because there are so many needy people around, and let me tell you what, brother, I'm one of them. You're one of them. We all have need of something, right? I know we got all quiet, but you all need something. We all need something. We are dependent on one another, but we are dependent on God first and foremost. But He's put us in place for a reason. We need each other. We need each other. Now, this peaceful harvest of right living, for those who are trained in this way, right living, you have to have correct training. You got to know the training ground that you're in. You will break out of that mindset as you begin to step out. I remember this. With an air mattress, 2 suitcases of belongings, and 5 monthly supporters, we launched out into full-time ministry. Now, listen, we have all heard the hefty bag conversation that Pastor Jeff talks about. What is your hefty bag story? What is your launching out into the unknown with an air mattress kind of story? What is it? Because I guarantee as you break out of something, you break out of that loneliness and all these things, you feel empty, right? You feel like you have absolutely nothing to contribute to nobody, but that's a lie from the pit of hell. You have everything to contribute back to this society. There are so many things that are inside of you because you were designed with it from birth. You will break out as you step out. You have to step out in faith. You have to work with what you have so that you can do what you've never done before. In choosing to be faithful with what you've been given, in Psalm 119:30, it says, I have chosen to be faithful. You have to choose to be faithful in your recovery so that you can be faithful. You be faithful a little bit, God will give you more. You heard this over and over again. I say, if you get sick and tired of hearing some of the same scriptures or same sayings in recovery, I guarantee that ain't good. Because here's the deal. I said I would never go back to places that I went back to because I started considering things to be ordinary. I started thinking of these people that were put into my life as being nothing than just mere people around me that had nothing to contribute to my life. When you start to look at the people around you as having nothing to contribute to your life, then you're on your way to a relapse. It's a checkpoint. It's a checkpoint. It ain't good. I guarantee it. I've been there and I know. But I have determined to live by your regulations. We have to have regulation in our life, a rule or directive made and maintained by an authority. We're all under authority at any given moment of every given day. No matter where you are, whether you're at a gas station, it's not your gas station, you're underneath the authority. You're in here, you're underneath a different type of authority. You're at the house that you live in, there's authority there, right? You're constantly under authority no matter what level of influence you have. Now, look at this. And then we're going to break it down and close. You are powerless without God's hand on your life. 1 Corinthians 1:27. Instead, God chose things the world considers foolish. I know that I was considered to be foolish in the world, but I guarantee that I'm still a little bit foolish, but I don't live foolishly anymore. I live with wisdom. You're called in your recovery. Each and every one of us are called to have wisdom in our recovery in order to shame those things who think that they're wise. And he chose things that are powerless to shame those who are powerful. In closing, 3 C's. 3 C's. Crush, cleanse, and concentrate. Break out, break in, and break through. Look at this. Crush. Look at this. Romans 16:20. The God of peace will soon crush Satan under your feet. May the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ be with you. In your recovery, you need grace. The second thing is cleanse. You need to break in, allow other people to break into your life, allow God to break in your life, to experience cleansing so that you can have a pure heart in your recovery. God the Father knew you and chose you long ago, and His Spirit has made you holy. As a result, you have obeyed Him and have been cleansed by the blood of Jesus Christ. May God give you more and more grace. Say grace. Say grace. You need grace in your recovery, not only for yourself, but in your dealings with other people. So you have to crush. Understand that Satan, your enemy, has been crushed underneath your feet. You're breaking out of that lifestyle so you can allow some new things to be broken into your life. And then you have to concentrate. You have to have breakthrough in your life, in your recovery. Because when you have breakthrough in your recovery, you become stronger and stronger. Every day that you're sober, you concentrate on the thing. Proverbs 2:2 says, tune your ears to wisdom and concentrate on understanding. When you can concentrate in your recovery, you can break through into new dimensions so that every day doesn't seem unbearable, so that every day doesn't seem worthless, so that every day you recognize that you add value to the world around you. God bless you. Thank you very much.